of these clients, of different hardware and softwares that they use on a regular basis, and making sure, again, how can we continue to challenge the status quo, and continue to help them grow in a more sort of collaborative way instead of a sales-based way. So that's a lot of what I work on right now. And the way I contribute to my field is always to be very innovative and bring new ideas. I forgot to mention this, but what I also do is I have an initiative I work on called Customer Buds. I do feel there's a lack of understanding of client-focused roles like sales, like customer success. People are always focusing on. I don't want to put Srija under the corner, but product. That's a very commercial field. Everybody knows a lot about it. Is excited about it. But customer success is all. If you love people, like it's a great role. So Customer Buds really focuses on connecting people with mentors in the industry that you can learn from different organizations as well. And yeah, so that's what I do to contribute, is to help other people learn about these roles and also find support and mentorship as well to break into them. Thank you.
I can go next. So at Checker, I'm in the leadership role, and I have a team of engineers who actually code and build the product. So my primary role is to ensure that the engineers have all the information, all the context, and all the resources that they need to build the product. So typically what happens in any tech industry or any a typical way in which it works is that the biz dev people and product managers like Srija would be identifying what like the research areas and what to build. So they define what to build and why we are building, what's the value prop. It could be a feature, it could be the whole product. And once it is identified that, okay, we are going to do this particular feature or product, it comes to the engineering team. And then I work with my team to size up the project, to come up with what would be the timeline and how many people should work on that, and all the engineering details, the architecture and everything. Our team work with the team to build that. So my primary role is to do the planning and the execution of the product. Finally, I would be the one responsible for delivering the product to the customer. So that's how I see my role. Apart from that, of course, keeping like the engineering processes, making sure that people are like there's a cross-functional collaboration happening across like different teams. All this is like part of the job, but the fun part is that we get to build and what the customer wants, and that's pretty exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, I think all of us, our different roles kind of fit in different pieces of the same puzzle. But I personally, I've worked as a software engineer. And so like Anjana was mentioning, she manages a lot of software engineers who go down and actually, end up building whatever those products are that the company wants to make. And so most of my time on the job is spent either coding, looking over someone else's code the same way you might review somebody else's essay before you turn it in. And helping the variety of other people who have other stakeholders like managers, product managers, business development people who help us figure out like, you guys are going to make something with your technical tools. What exactly do we want to make to help the business achieve its goals? And working with all these different people to set expectations, set deadlines, and actually create the product itself. And the things that we make are, I mean, you guys can imagine pretty much any technology-based product, anywhere from like, the keyboard on your iPhone to the neural networks that help Tesla cars drive themselves to, all the other stuff that goes into creating those and allowing them to run, could potentially be the job of a software engineer. And it's not to say that a single person would make any of those things, but each person works kind of to build software tools and products together. They're like little Lego pieces that all plug together. So that's my job. And yeah, that's how I contribute.
Hi, everyone. It's always good to go last, because everybody ahead of you has kind of explained. And in my case, a lot of them actually spoke about my role. So, I can be brief. So thank you for that. And it's fantastic to be with all of you today afternoon on a Saturday. It's quite exciting to meet young folks who are looking to get, especially I heard, there's an interest in STEM. So really excited to hear, what you'll go on to achieve. So in my case, I specifically am an outbound product manager, and I work in the connectivity and networking division at Qualcomm. What does an outbound product manager mean? We'll talk along the way. I'll not get into details here, and we'll talk about what outbound product management means. But really, in my current role, I interact with access point providers. So by access point providers, I mean, there's a Wi-Fi in your house, which has become super important over the last year. The one that has allowed you to really connect to your school, your classes, etc. And when it goes down, life goes for a toss. Exactly that Wi-Fi router. So that's what we are helping build. And so I connect with the folks who are building it. We provide the chipsets that go into those. And so I talk to the folks who end up, kind of building those products with the chipsets that are built. And we ensure that you have the seamless Wi-Fi in your home, your college campus, your school campus, offices, public spaces, and just about everywhere. And just to make sure that what our customers need and what they build is what we are building internally. And like, Hema was, Hema was explaining before, really about we map out the journey, and then we help our internal engineering teams that work on these products to go build them. And I'm excited to play my part in defining the features for the next generation of connectivity solutions, which are laying the foundations for smart homes, enterprises, IoT. You hear all these buzzwords, but you need, a pipe that goes in and builds that. So that's what we are trying to help out here. And that's my primary role.
All right, so that brings us to our next question. What does a typical day look for you at work? What do you like the most about your job? What do you enjoy the most?
You want us to go in the same order, or?
You guys can go in any order.
Up to you guys.
Yeah, I can start.
Go ahead, Richard. Yeah.
Sorry. All right, for sure. So yeah, I usually start off the day kind of by looking at where I left off my work in the previous day. Maybe out of an 8-hour workday, about half of the day actually involves me writing code. But apart from that, there's actually a lot of kind of soft skills work that also goes into the job, where first of all, you make sure that you have everything you're working on very clean and organized so that you don't lose track of what you're working on. And in case, when you're coding, a simple semicolon and a simple extra semicolon or something can lead to the entire program crashing. You have to make sure that you keep careful track of versions of your code and all that kind of stuff. So carefully figure out where I was in the previous day, and then get started on a few of my tasks before we have something that's called a stand-up meeting. And a stand-up meeting is a way for people on a team to kind of get back in sync with each other, because everyone's usually working on different small parts of a bigger project. And they want to stay in sync with each other to make sure that if someone needs help from somebody else, they can ask for that help. And if someone's been stuck, they can say that, hey, look, I think I might need help, or I might need to change up, or I might have to set my deadline a little bit later than we thought it was initially going to be. So you do those kinds of things in a quick stand-up meeting. It's usually 15-20 minutes long. And then after that, throughout the day, you have small meetings that are relating to bigger project planning. You might just meet up with your other engineers to talk about maybe some new tools, or just ask for help using something you've never used before. And you end up slowly working together to build up those Lego type pieces into the product. And that's kind of what a day looks like generally. And what I like most about the job is that I get to solve really complex riddle-like problems. Now, before I'd ever seen code, or before I ever coded before, programming languages look like an alien language to me, right? And then after I understood a little bit more about syntax, I started learning Python, Java, etc. I realized that after you get past that alien veneer on top of the coding languages, you start to realize it's more like logic riddles a lot of the time. And it's really about being able to put together a bunch of complex pieces and use things to make something bigger and useful. And that to me is super exciting. So that's what I love most about the job.
I can go.
Okay, go ahead, Anjana. No worries.
Okay. So my typical day starts with stand-up, what like Rachit was mentioning, that we have a stand-up in our team where all the engineers and the team that is working on a project get together. And if it is a real office space, which we huddle in the work area, and it's typically 10 to 15 minutes. Nowadays, everything happens in Zoom. What we do is everybody shares what they worked yesterday, what they are planning to work today, and any challenges that they are having right now. So they talk about it and just let others know. And this is an opportunity where we get to know where the project is going, who is who needs help, who needs additional who's blocked, and I come in and I try to unblock them with whatever they are facing challenges. After that, it's mostly the whole day. There are multiple meetings. That's what my day looks like. My calendar is always blocked with meetings where either I'm meeting with the vendor, whom we are who provide us data, and in our case, or customer support teams. We have legal partners that we have to meet and make sure that our product is aligned. The designers, the product managers, and most of these meetings are recurring meetings, so they just pop up in the calendar, and we have to make sure that we take the project forward. So that's what my time spent. I spend most of my time getting everybody together. And apart from that, there are responsibilities like recruiting, which is a very core part for anybody in the leadership role. We want to make sure that we are recruiting the right people, not only in our team, but other teams. So be in the interview panels, building their career plan for the engineers, because all engineers have want to grow, want to become better in what they're doing and have a career path. So work with them on that. And then build processes across to make the development of our product faster. We keep thinking about what are the new tools and why we have to use what is good. So be in those discussions, be in the architectural discussions, and figure out how to keep the team together and the collaboration, make it easy for fun for everybody to work. So those are some of the other initiatives which also takes most of the time. And some part of the year, when it is when we are planning for the next next quarter, we get very busy with planning, what are we planning to build, what is the timeline, can we release that? So answer those questions, putting things together in a proper timeline fashion. So that takes some bandwidth, and that's it. It goes on. But it's a lot of fun to keep doing this and making sure that we are building and moving forward.
Okay, since Rachit and Anjana were back to back, and they had a nice sequence to how you had stand-ups, and Anjana was managing stand-ups. We'll do, I'm a part of stand-up, so I'll go in there, and then we'll pass it along to Alvin, because it's more on the client-facing, the end product. So I come somewhere in between, let's put it that way. So the good part here is you get to see the complete flow in different roles that we are in. I think the organizers really have done a great job in getting people or the panelists with different perspectives. So hats off to you guys, who have put this together. Now, coming to my role, I'll break it down into its fundamental elements, okay? So since I'm an outbound product manager, customer meetings are one of my major things. So my role involves interfacing with customers, aligning their business needs with Qualcomm's product offerings, and being the voice to our internal teams. So whatever my customers bring in, I need to translate that and take it back to our internal teams. So meeting, discussing, and presenting to customers is fundamental to my role. Then there is the core product and business activities, which involve revenue management, pricing, product positioning, go-to-market strategy, lots of big words in there. But overall, what we're trying to do is, trying to bring everything together for the business from a product perspective. Then I'm writing product requirements, analyzing market and technology trends, and many other such functions which kind of bucket into this whole business product activities bucket. So we did, I spoke about two aspects. One is the customer meetings, and then I spoke core business and product activities. Okay. Then the third aspect I work on is working with cross-functional engineering and customer support teams. So think of, Anjana's team and then Alvin's team. So just working across the different verticals and the different teams within Qualcomm to communicate these customer priorities, whether it's stand-up meetings, bug scrums, or issues, and just ensure that customer deliverables are on track. If there is a one throat to choke, if something goes wrong for the customer, we become that one throat to choke at times. So or at any given time. So if it's, if a board needs to be picked up, we'll need to do that just to make sure things get unblocked. If something is not moving, we need to help move that needle. There are different folks within the organization who are helping that, but eventually it just boils down when it's a customer facing aspect, it comes down to us. Then one more is collaborating really with sales to align on customer strategy and messaging for products, issues, or any escalations, and marketing communications for strategizing our marketing activities. Any product, right, that is in this world, in today's world, marketing is really core. So providing the technical information that's needed for our marketing communications team to go market our product and put that to put that material outside. So that's also an integral part of my role. Then there are reviews, discussions with executives, both internal within Qualcomm and externally with our customers. That happens intermittently. And like every role, there are miscellaneous tasks that are conferences, supply or production related, or anything needed to really support a customer to go into production internally. Whatever we are blocking, we need to get done. So that's super important for my role. Now, what percentage each of these occupies on my daily calendar really depends on what phase of the product life cycle we are in. Suppose I'm in the evangelization or design win or commercialization or a post-product launch. Depending on that, any of these could be become a major item and the rest could become minor items. So in summary, no 2 days look alike, and it is dealing with ambiguity that I love most about my job. So over to you, Alvin.
Right, that was a great summary for the other panelists. I'll try to continue to build on it because I'm definitely part of that life cycle when it comes to a product. How my day begins is a lot of prioritization and resetting. So working with clients, so I work with the entire state of clients, all of their ministries, all of the universities, all of their colleges. So it can be really very easy to be overwhelmed working with like at least 800 clients at the same time. So my day really begins understanding strategically what are my priorities, what are my team's priorities, and who needs for attention the most. So then based on that, I would set up those meetings, not just for a single day, but for a month or a quarter at a time to always think ahead and be there for the client. The second component of my role is a lot of research. Being in a client-focused role, you need to be aware of not just one product, but all of the products, all of the options, the things that the client might be considering even outside the single product that we might be working on. So to be able to bring that value to the client and not be, not be in a position where the client brings the value to you and educates you about products, but be really being the advocate to bridge that gap for the client. The other component of the role is really, after you understand the product and you bridge the gap, like Shrija said, from the internal perspective, is also working externally with other clients, including like vendors, distribution. So let's say the client does agree to a product. What does that look like from an implementation perspective, right? How many days will that take? What will that cost? What kind of engineers might need to be allocated to that? So really help bridge that gap after the sales is closed, or what the implementation might look like, or vendors perspective or distributors perspective, and even a services perspective and a legal perspective, because a lot of times a lot of these things sound nice in fundamentality, but when you have to execute and implement them, it's a challenge, right? And everything is liable. So if you're not able to protect yourself from legal basis in terms of licenses and things that you do take ownership for, it's very easy to get into some form of lawsuit, right? So we definitely make sure we manage that level of communication as well. And another thing that we do within the role is analytics. So a lot of what we want to do is understand what are these cycles, right? What do the clients buy often? What kind of products are they interested in? And a lot of this feedback is then really utilized for us to take to the different teams, like product, like development, to be able to understand the client and their needs and usage patterns in a very detailed way. Which can then help us, sell and service the client better, but also help us build better products to continue to, understand what the client requires on a regular basis. That's in a nutshell of the different things we sort of dabble in. A lot of using of different, technologies and softwares to be able to implement that. What I really enjoy about the role, similar to when I said, it's very like dynamic. No day looks the same. It depends on what the client. If your client's not having a good day, you need to make sure you can change that. What I also really enjoy about the role is the opportunity to learn. Like you need to become an expert in every domain of your client's needs. The learning never stops when you're working with a client that is, obviously in different. Like if you think of a government client, every ministry has a different specialization, right? The kind of technology they use, the products they use, always vary. So you always are challenged to keep up with the market and the trends, and that's what I enjoy the most about the role. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. So just going to switch gears a little bit and talk more about like how you got into your careers. So essentially, how did you pursue your passions in your profession, whether it be like through college or just acquiring certain jobs? So basically, like what was your pathway getting here?
Yeah, I can start. Considering that I'm still kind of in college, I've really only solidified exactly what I'm planning on, not planning on, but am studying as of a few months ago. So initially, I applied to college as a business student. I had done obviously FBLA back at Irvington itself, and had done a few other entrepreneurial and business kind of focused extracurriculars back in high school. So I applied as a business student, got into the global management program in UC Berkeley. And after coming back from a semester abroad in London, my mom had been pressuring me to take computer science classes for a very long time. So I told her, look, okay, I go to Berkeley. Berkeley is very well known for its computer class, just so that you know that I've tried it out. And after that, I was hooked. So after that, I actually added on the data science major and the computer science major as well a little bit later on, actually. I decided to add that on just a few months ago. And it's been extremely interesting to me because I love the way that, business is great in a lot of ways, but I also find the problems that I get to solve on a daily basis as an engineer to be extremely interesting. And so the way I really pursued my passions was, by expanding my, purview of what classes I was planning on taking at testing out some new subjects that I initially had a big aversion to, actually. And then after, spending some time taking computer science classes, I became more comfortable trying to apply for computer science or software engineering jobs. When I first came in, I was planning on being, either an investment banker or a consultant or something like that. And I don't think that's going to be my path anymore. So after basically after my first year, I decided to add on the data science major. And I realized I wanted to do something a little bit more technical. And after my second year, that's when I solidified that I definitely want to work as a software engineer for at least a few years. And that's when I went kind of full in on that technical studies route. And after, learning more fundamental computer science concepts at Berkeley itself, like algorithms, data structures, and a lot of the stuff you'll encounter if you decide to study computer science, I got to intern a few times at a few different companies. And some that you guys might recognize are Kaiser Permanente, which is a big healthcare provider here, Amazon Web Services, which is a different part of the Amazon that most of you are probably familiar with. But Amazon Web Services actually runs all the computers that Netflix stores all their movies on. So that's kind of interesting. And also I'm going to be working at Roblox in a few weeks. I start on Monday, actually. And you guys probably have heard, Roblox is a gaming platform. And all of these have, hordes of product managers, engineers, tons of engineers, and a lot of engineering leadership. And of course, people in Alvin's role as well that help us go from what do we want to make, right? Let's make it. And now let's get into the hands of the people who actually need it, right? So that's kind of where I am right now. And of course, I actually got to speak with someone just a few days ago who worked as a computer engineer for most of his life. And at the age of around 45, decided to switch and become a lawyer, which is not a very common path. But I say that just to point out that these things are very malleable, right? Obviously, my fields of studies changed as I came into college and I learned more, took more classes. And it's important to keep your eyes open and to keep your mind open to new opportunities at all times. So whatever you think you're interested in, definitely pursue it, but also keep your mind open to new opportunities.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Arvin. So yeah, let's.
All right, you want me to go? Okay. So how did I pursue my profession? I had a lot of pivots and changes. When I started off my career, I was someone that loved giving back to people, and I was started off in the nonprofit space. I spent around 3 years working with nonprofits in corporate relations. I, helped with grants, impact assessment reporting. A lot of my education directed that it towards social work. It was towards communication. And then I realized, I want to be new. I want to be in a different sector. I don't enjoy the nonprofit space as much. And then I went into research. I was a part of the Gerson Lerman group that does a lot of client-based research, venture capital research. I did that for a year, and then I was like, you know what? I don't enjoy this as much, and I want to do something new. And I took a lot of the learnings I had with the people skills I had with working with nonprofits and working in research to client solution roles, because I was able to find a better balance of the things I like to do, which is working with people, which is sort of being very inquisitive and wanting to learn more, in a client solutions role, but I was always challenged to try to fix the problem. And I think from there it continued, the journey of wanting to learn and change and challenge continued to grow. And I found myself in sales operations where I had to continue again, keep learning, but more importantly, I had to continue to build relationships, not just with stakeholders externally in the company, but internally as well. Because no deal is going to be closed if everyone isn't happy, right? There's no chance that someone can be upset about the programming. So I enjoy that. I'm a big people's person and I'm a big learner. So the schooling did help a lot with building the foundation of what I wanted to do. To be honest, I've always specialized in marketing, right? If you would look at my journey, like I don't have a supply chain background, I don't have an operational background, but I do have foundationally an understanding of myself. And I think that's the biggest thing schooling gave me. It pushed me to do drama, to do poetry, to work in different spaces and to really understand who I am and what I want, which is someone that wants to be challenged and learn and connect with people, right? And I feel like as long as you're able to find that in the role you're in and what you want to do, I think that for me was more important than being at an X company or doing X thing. It was about how can I fulfill my skills and experiences in the best way. And that's sort of what directed me to make those many changes and continue to make changes. I don't see myself being a person that can always be in the same role and same organization. Definitely someone that wants to grow and continue to challenge the odds. And that's what keeps me going. It's definitely good to be happy in what you do and who you are, more than try to make yourself happy in a role or a situation, because that can continue to change, but who you are will most likely remain the same. So that's what I would sort of take away from my experience, and I hope that helps.
Anjana, do you want to go ahead or I can speak through?
You
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So Rachita and Alvin have given a great perspective of different aspects. I want to touch upon something different along the way as well. I'll talk about my journey. So first thing, what inspired me really to come into STEM? That's because a lot of y'all are actually, I see that y'all have made that choice to really go into STEM. But what inspires you, or what made me go into STEM? So when I was in India, so I did my schooling back in India. Like Alvin mentioned, he also was, he schooled in India. So my mom was in the finance sector, and I was really fortunate to see her go to work, and she was this well-respected individual in the banking and finance industry then, where it was not often that there were a lot of women in that role. And after school, at times, I would really accompany her to her workplace. And I was really awed at her AC cabin. And those days, the whole government offices in India had a very different approach. So this whole AC cabin awe that it had to it was really nice and fancy for me. And then the respect that she commanded from everyone. So since then, I really knew what I wanted to do. Let's sit in an AC cabin. I wanted to enjoy coffee, and I wanted to enjoy the constant supply of chocolates that I got there. Now, jokes aside, but what really fascinated me there was this scientific calculator in her office. Now, anybody, in those days who used to work in finance, you will see that there was no Excel. We are all Excel kids in this world. I allude to myself as a kid, but what I'm saying is we are Excel people. But they were, scientific calculators people. So I was amazed at how the small device could really add, subtract, multiply, divide, calculate, just something I couldn't do. And I wanted to know how I could build something like this and what I could do and, build from scratch. So I continue to ask and pester everyone as to how this worked. And everyone said, go to college and get an engineering degree to find out. And that was, my reason to go get into engineering. And I went into electrical and computer engineering from, I decided to do that from Virginia Tech. Now there, I kind of focused on the wireless communication aspect of it. Now, the why behind that is also something I can explain. During my undergrad years, it was this mobile phone revolution that was, starting in India. Mobile phones were a big deal then. This is, the decade of 2000, that decade. And I was amazed at how cellular technology had this potential to connect people in the remotest corners of the world, all with a device that fit into the palm of your hand. It's very difficult for you to imagine that at this point because, it's so ubiquitous, right, around us. Everybody has a mobile, who doesn't, right? But then it was so fancy and so new, people weren't so connected. And the possibilities of that technology at that point seemed endless. And that is what really prompted me to kind of go explore that field and go into the wireless communication and networking major for my grad studies. Along the way, I dabbled in, networking as well, which was my minor. And between the two, really now is where I am, the connectivity plus networking space, where all these technologies really are helping me. Now, anybody who goes to study wireless communication or who knows a little bit, I know y'all are too young to understand, will understand that Qualcomm really plays a central role in this, in the, you hear words like 3G, 4G, I'm not sure y'all are familiar. And now we are talking 5G, and that's how the cellular revolution has kind of evolved. But it really figures prominently in your textbooks when you start studying about it. So when I was in grad school, Qualcomm was my dream company. To get into an internship there was something like a dream that worked out for me. And I got in as a systems, engineer, something that Rachit was talking about. So I started off as an engineer working in the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi domain. And from there, over the years, in the different roles and the hats that I donned in the engineering sector, kind of going in from an engineer or an individual contributor to a manager and interacting with customers in some form, helped me gain a really nice business perspective and a customer-facing, perspective towards things. And that helped me realize that what my strengths were aligned with the product management role. And I transitioned into product management, which I described, which is my current role, about 3 years ago. And that's where I am, at the intersection of business and technology today. Okay, so over to you, Archana.
Thank you, Srija. It was a really nice, story about how you progressed. So myself, actually, before leading the engineering team, I was myself an engineer, just like Rachit, writing code, building products. I studied computer science back in my school and started my first job as a software engineer. But back when I was in college, we had internet. I mean, I'm a little older, very clear from the from the topic that I'm talking about. But there was no user-friendly browser. We didn't have Google. So actually, we used only books and people and library to get all the information. Can you guys imagine? I mean, being in school without Google nowadays, but then there was a lot of buzz around technology. We were hearing about all these computers and powerful, the computing power which was coming. There was no laptop, of course, and no mobile and no, these were the emerging technologies which we read about. So that's what got me inspired. Wow, this is a field that is really a lot of things are happening, and I want to be part of it. I want to be doing something small or big to be in that journey. So that got me inspired, and I got into software engineering, like building, writing code. And actually, in my initial days when I was working in Oracle, which was my first company, it was just like a regular project that we were given that, hey, this is an XML technology. I don't know how many people of you might have heard about it. HTML you have heard, but XML is also a more structured, which we use in browser everywhere. There was a cross company initiative, which is W3C forum. It still exists. We were defining the spec, and it was so all new that we were asked, our team was asked, hey, you guys also need to work with this W3C forum, talk to all these people, and of course you have to write the code for that. And we did that, just like any other project, you worked on that. But then now looking back, I see that that was a basic thing. Now it is like a basic thing for our web technology. And I'm really happy that we were part of the journey. So the whole thing about being in technology is what building new things and have that opportunity and being part of making impact on other people's life is what I'm generally passionate about and I'm excited about. And now as I grew in my career, I kind of broadened it. I wanted to not only build and impact people products, but also help people who are building it. And so in that capacity, I moved into engineering management roles. But then my passion about being core with the grassroots, with the people actually are into that building mode. That's why I'm so inspired, I'm motivated to be in the education sector. So I work with a lot of high school students like you guys, and even in work we have interns and try to get them inspired in the field, just like I got inspired. So that connection is always there. What you felt, you want to make others feel. But yeah, so it's like, follow your passion, whatever excites you. If you keep doing, you will find that eventually you are in a place which will make sense. Even though when you're doing, it may seem like, hey, it's just a job, but well, it might be a very important job and you might be making a big change in life. So yeah, I want to stop here because I don't want to continue on. Like, it's just a thought process that I want to leave you guys with.
Wow, your journeys sound really amazing, like just starting from like the stories and all that you've told us. And I know how you've all talked about motivation and drive, but you've also referenced quite a lot how learning just never stops even when you're in the workplace. But other than that, what skills do you think are most important to your career? Like not just technical skills, but also just character skills,
I can take this one. I can start with this one. So I'll start with a misconception that happens about product management. So I'll break a myth before I go into why. So one of the biggest misconceptions I had walking into this role when I went in was this role is all about soft skills or interpersonal skills. It was all about bringing the right stakeholders in the room and making sure that we walk out with a decision. Sounds easy, kind of difficult, right? You're not doing anything technical, but it was so far from it. It is partially true. This is a nature of that role. But what is the most important to recognize is product management is really multidisciplinary in nature. So it sits at the intersection of different kinds of technologies. Then you have your UI UX or your design. Then you have data science, computer science, and then you really have to have your problem solving insights. The different teams, finance, revenue management, etc., coming together. There may be few fields that really touch as many different dimensions as this role. So it's like a breadth of a role. So that was something that I my eyes got wide open when I came in. So a couple of things that I realized and a couple of key skill sets I want to make sure the ones that I pass along are different from the others who have different skill sets for their core roles. So one thing in my role is we really need to think of the why behind the problem. So rather than thinking of a feature in a product, so what happens is, when previously when I used to see a phone, I'm like, oh damn, this feature is missing, right? Why didn't they put it in? But now when I try to build a product, when I'm trying to look at it holistically, I understand the constraints of a problem. And then prioritization comes in. Somebody, we were alluding to it before about what is important. What do you solve? What's the most important thing to solve? And then what you really need to do is, rather than the feature in a product, you need to think of different ways to solve a certain problem. So being problem and solution driven rather than feature driven. Now, this is something that we can get trapped in as product managers. So what is the problem the customer has, or what is the problem that the consumers have, and what is the solution that we can pass along? So that's number one. Think of the why and then try to solve it. Spend time in the problem space and then go into the solution space. The next thing that, very important skill that I've learned is think simple before you think complex. So think simple, break things down. So when I get a problem, typically it's really nebulous. It's kind of hazy. And from there, I have to break down this complex, hazy idea into smaller and simple ideas. So think of the first principle. Many of you may not know what the first, it's about breaking things down. And then realizing that there's something called the Pareto principle, that 80% of the value that you're creating gets created with 20% of the effort. But knowing that is easy, but implementing that requires that you focus on a holistic thing rather than, you get bogged down by the small things. So there is this concept of big rocks and small rocks. So you figure out your big rocks, you figure out your holistic picture, and then you go into the details. And that's how we work. And then there's, of course, ruthless prioritization, creative problem solving around the business constraints of your problem. Now, how does this apply to you when you're in school? You really need to think of, how can I look at a certain problem that's given to me and think of it in different forms? So think of the problem space and what that problem space is, and look at the solution space and think of multiple different solutions and then streamline that. So your problem solving and your creative abilities around that will help you get here to this role. And the next part, of course, is developing your communication skills. There is, interpersonal skills in communication, working with different people is super important, which all of you, I can already see that, you are super talented. So you all are going to get there. So those are some key aspects or key skills that you would need for a product management role. I'll pass the baton along.
I can build on what Srija said. So because it is kind of like, same mindset I also have, like most of the things what she mentioned is common across all profession. So one of the things which I would like to focus on is build your fundamentals. So whichever field you are, try to get the fundamentals there. Like I can talk more about computer science. If you are doing any kind of computer science related field, learn the basics, learn how computers work, how they talk to each other, the networking, the languages. You don't need to be an expert in all languages, but learn about the languages, popular ones, and also go a little step deeper, how these languages are developed. So the compilers, so get a little bit of everything. You probably don't need to be an expert overnight, but you should have enough context that you can connect the dots. So as you grow in your career, any career it could be related to, this applies to any career you are in, you will eventually find that all these fundamentals work behind the scenes, and knowing them will help you, you will start appreciating what you are doing, and also appreciating what you are using as in terms of applications, apps. Like you see the Netflix movie, but how much behind things are happening, like whether it's AWS which is storing it, or how they are finding out from the data science, which one you like. All those are the skills which are things which are happening behind the scene, and you don't need to know all that, but if you know the basics, you can kind of imagine and extrapolate. So that's what I would try to when you want to break up the problem, you first need to know the fundamentals so that you are able to break up into small pieces and think about it and extrapolate. And what else? So yes, as Srija was saying that communication is main skill, trying to be able to project your thoughts into proper words, proper way in which you can share is super important. And some of you may not know what you're going to do, in today's technology, in today's world, everything is connected. So try to have that. You don't need to be very narrow. Start with a broader perspective, like a broader range. I don't know whether you guys if you know what you're doing, there are people like Tiger Woods, you can take an example, who knew from 2 years, 3 years that he's going to be a golfer. Well, not all of us know that, but then there are people like Roger Federer, who was who did almost till 30 years he was playing all kinds of sports, and then he became he channelized into tennis. So keep that mindset that all these skills which you learn, well, you don't need to be specialized, but maybe over time it will eventually converge. So have build a broader set of skills. So yeah, that's something which I feel important.
Thank you, Srija and Anjana, for sharing. I can go next. So if you are thinking of operations as a career path, I think some of the skill sets that I would say are very important. Number one is self-awareness and presence of mind. This could seem really broad as a concept, and I wish I knew about it when I was younger, but it's just your ability to focus on what you're doing at the present moment, right? If you're eating a grape, for example, or writing a homework, it's so easy to be distracted and for your mind to wander. And I've realized the presence of mind, especially when you're prioritizing amongst many tasks and trying to get many things done at the same time, is so important for you to realize what you can and cannot do, right? The biggest thing I think I've learned in all of my time working is how to say no, because I'm really bad at saying no, right? If 100 people come to me, say, Ivan, I need to get this done, I would say yes to all of them and probably disappoint all of them, right? But what self-awareness helps you do is it helps you understand these are the priorities, these are things I'm able to work on, these are things that are outside my control. And you're in a better position now to say no. And saying no probably is the biggest gift you can give yourself and whoever you work for, because then you're focusing on whatever you should focus on, right? So I would say that's one thing. And how you can do this in like a school or a younger setting is just try to pay attention to the smaller tasks, right? Like if you're focusing on a homework or an assignment, see how often you get distracted, right? You might get a message on your phone, you might get one of your friends calling you out. And the biggest thing about presence of mind is not probably fighting it. It's just knowing that it's happening, right? You knowing that you get distracted 10 times when you do one task is you just building that understanding that, okay, the next time maybe I put my phone away. Maybe I let my friends know that I'm not going to be available for an hour, right? So knowing the problem first is probably a step towards solving it. So that's number one, self-awareness. I would say the second important thing is being able to set expectations and be able to negotiate them as well. Right. So when for instance, in an operations role, when I was working with the Ministry of Health during a pandemic, I mean, obviously they're very crazy about everything that's happening, going to get everything done, but being able to create expectations and setting fair expectations is so important because the people that you work with, just people at school, your professors, your friends, they may tell you, oh, they want you to do this, they want you to do that, but your ability to be able to set fair expectations, and again, it builds on being able to understand yourself, is going to make sure that you get the thing done, but you get it done in a practical way that works for them and for you, right? Being able to negotiate a fair ground in any role is so important, so that you can make sure your manager or everyone else is not really controlling the ship, but you have a sense of control and direction towards the work that you do. And yeah, the final thing is communication. I think everyone else touched upon it as well, but you need to be very crisp with the way you communicate, right? A lot of communications are very synthetic, like people would say 100 things in a few words, but your ability to, again, calm it down, be able to break it down, and be able to, uh, sort of be able to manage like high pressures or high sort of tension, and even be able to read the room in a situation, even if it's not verbal, but even if it's an email, is very important. Because in the end of the day, the way you articulate yourself, the way you come back from a negative situation will really define who you are, your organization, and your brand. And if in that moment you lose your cool, you don't communicate in the best way in the interest of your team with the values of your organization, you can make everyone sort of in a difficult situation, right? And it can affect not just one business transaction and one dealing, it can affect everything, right? So it's definitely very important to know how the best ways to communicate in different situations and then bring that understanding to the table. I would say these are some of the key, core things that it's good to have as skill sets in operations, and just a good demeanor and an understanding for different products and sort of technologies as well. There's so many, like SAP, Salesforce, and at a younger age, it's obviously a lot to look at. But what I would say is just being able to have that curiosity to read about it, learn about it, speak to people in different industries. You're able to then understand, okay, if you do choose operations in, let's say, technology, it looks very different from operations in, let's say, marine or something else, right? So it's always good to be curious and have those conversations to learn what direction might make sense for you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm almost regretting going last now because I don't have much new to add. But what I was actually going to say, the two that I had in mind were actually already said. I think, Alvin, you said both of them. The very first one was communication that I was going to say, and it's surprising, even working in a technical role, how much of your actual work is dictated by your ability to communicate and set those expectations with the people that you're working with. And this is actually kind of applicable to school as well, because a lot of people, when we get a deadline for a class, or the teacher gives some guideline for an essay or for a test or whatever it is, a lot of people don't realize that you can speak to the teacher. They're real people and they're flexible and they have feelings and they have empathy and they have understanding. And if something comes up, you can talk to them about maybe moving a deadline or about learning some concept in more detail with some one-on-one coaching, all this kind of stuff. So not being afraid to communicate with somebody is really what I would recommend. Not being afraid to reach out, ask for help, ask for flexibility, in a respectful manner, obviously. Right? And the second thing I want to highlight again is that that presence of mind factor. And Alvin, you said it in the context of like being at work and having a bunch of tasks that you have to prioritize and triage every day. But I also want to bring it up in the context of the number of distractions that we have every single day. And especially again, for all the students here, whenever you're working on homework, whenever you're working on anything for school or for extracurriculars, there's your phone very close to your phone, or your laptop very close by. And on there you have access to Netflix, YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, Twitter, everything you could possibly want to keep you occupied for the rest of your life. So it's extremely important that you learn how to control the temptation to reach for those distractions when distractions, almost reflexively, and also when you need to get something done with high quality. And you'll notice that, and definitely I've tried to implement this a little bit more in my life, and also for my siblings, my sibling, and my parents, is that we realize that we're able to get our work done with better quality and faster, leaving more focused time to just relax if we're able to minimize the distractions while we're working. So again, communication and presence of mind, whatever it is you're doing, but being fully focused on doing that alone.
Very nicely said, Rachit. So what has helped me personally, like in my younger days, to pursue my path is my problem solving mindset. I always love puzzles. So whether it's building the puzzle or like, solving word puzzles, any kind of puzzles. And that's actually the mindset of solving problem, like, any problem is what, like, brought me into technology and brought me into the field of building things. And the other thing is, like, in even I never used to, like, I used to tell myself, don't give up, like, try it, like, you'll figure it out. It was not easy, I will say, like, from what I remember. I remember the times when we stayed late in the, like, for completing a CS assignment overnight, like, stay because the deadline was the next day. Or even in the industry when I was an engineer, like, there will be a customer issue, you are like some challenges, escalations, and it does stress us out. So you, like, you kind of never give up and you do it. So those are the things which, like, never believe that you can solve it, and it's just a problem, it's just a puzzle, and solve it. That's what, like, anytime when things become overwhelming, I tell myself. But over time, I would say that two things which even today that I apply and I kind of keep, like, reminding myself is that there are smart people around. So get to know them. You're not alone in solving a problem, any problem for that matter. There are people who can help you. Reach out to them. Use your skills, communication skills, and all kind of, like, use technology to reach out to them, talk to them, and get them into the discussions and brainstorm with them. And the second thing I would, like, also apply on myself is, don't, like, start somewhere. You don't need to have the final picture in place to start. Just start something and iterate. Do it, like, again and again and again. As you build it, it will get to a place where you want it to be, but only if you start at some point, right? So whether it is a software or whether it is like anything, in any idea, the principles are the same. That engage with other people, talk to people, brainstorm, get other people engaged and in the ideation, and then start somewhere and keep working. If you follow this, I'm sure that you guys are going to do great things in life.
All right, that was really good advice from all of you. And the next question is kind of touching on that, but it's more about, like, maybe like resources or stuff like that. So what has helped you get to where you are right now? I know you guys already talked a lot about this in the past question, so you guys can keep this one short.
So I understand that this question's like a little bit vague, but kind of just like a condensed list of things that every student should, like, keep in mind.
Okay, why don't I go on this one again? So, and I'll take off from, the previous question because it's a good segue. So what has helped me get here? So 3 skills is and that's a summary of what we spoke about. A lot of the things that were alluded to in all the answers across all the panelists. So being a proactive and a curious learner for life, that learning mindset is super important. And don't think when you get into your corporate world, you can just put your legs on the sofa and just watch Netflix. No, that's not how things work. You need to continue to be a learner. You need to be curious, and you need to be a high agency meaning you need to be proactive, go-getter. So don't lose that back in school. So that skill stays with you and will need to continue to stay there with you. Second one, everybody spoke about interpersonal and communication skills. No two bones about that. You have to have it and you have to work on it. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. You can work on it. Everything can be achieved in life. Just continue to start. First step is about starting. I think Jana was just talking about it at the end, that it's about taking that first step. Just work towards it and you'll become great at it. And it's no one's like really gifted when they come in with that. We just start, everybody works on it and everybody gets it. And the third thing is really your ability, your problem solving ability, which I was talking about before. Learning to break things down, complex, ambiguous stuff, learning to solve that. So how do you make your mind sharper? How do you kind of approach different problems really will help you get further in life. So these three skills were really primary for me. And I'll tell you a story of, about how I landed in product or how I landed in product management from engineering. So when I was an engineer, I submitted a couple of ideas to be filed as patents. Now, since you're in school, I'm not sure if you understand patent. Patent is basically when you have an idea, you kind of submit it to a certain organization, and then you get a stamp of approval saying it is your idea, and everybody in the world agrees that you were the person who submitted this idea. So from a technological perspective, that's a big thing. Everybody wants a patent against their name. So it's hard to get. It's really, really hard to get. And, hats off to, I really salute people who have patents and who worked on it. Innovation is hard, and, that takes effort. So when I was an engineer, I believed that if an idea was good, it would sell. So I submitted these ideas to be filed as patents. And my first few ideas got rejected. I filed a couple more, and they got rejected too. And at that point, I had two choices. One was really to kind of give up, because it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work in terms of time and energy. And this is really beyond my work hours, right? This is not something I do at work. When I was an engineer, I had work, and this was outside of work. So I could stop here, or I could work on understanding why I was failing. And I chose to do the latter, and it really helped me. So I followed up with the reviewers and the attorneys and the experts who were really reviewing these ideas. And that's when I understood a really important point. An idea is only as good as it sells in the business world. An idea without, a selling proposition will not matter to any business. So when I submitted the next idea, I had all the answers ready. What customer's pain point does it address? And what's the business value proposition for Qualcomm? Now, why do I say this? The reason I say this for a couple of reasons. It is that when you get stuck, or when you are, not doing well at something, it's really important to understand the why behind it. Not really going into the depth of, figuring out or breaking things down as to what is the problem as to why you're failing will not get you. Don't give up at that point. Figure that out and try to get over that hurdle. And that's what helped me. So then this process really helped me focus on the business aspect of an idea, seeing it from a customer's viewpoint, seeing it from a consumer's perspective. And then I started engaging more with customers in terms of demos, in my spare time, and then studying skill sets that I needed to get into another role. So as I said, there is no substitute for your learning abilities. So I had to go study marketing, finance, strategy, and other business related concepts, which were very new for me as an engineer. As an engineer, it was all technology. The world was all about technology. But then I had to, don a different hat, go study it, right from scratch. But it helped me realize that a product management role really aligned with my interests and abilities. And then I could utilize my technical expertise and problem solving through communication and a customer-centric approach where I could empathize with the customer to advocate for our products. And then I could align both sides. And the three skills that I listed above, curiosity, self-learning, and communication, have played an important role in helping me pivot from engineering to product. I hope this gave a perspective to that question. Passing the baton on to somebody else.
I have some of the same things to say, so I could just add on and build. I totally agree that what Srija said, being curious and keep learning is something which you guys are already doing now, but it never ends, and actually should not allow it to end. Information is everywhere. You can gather it. I personally like books. I read a lot of blogs and all that, but I feel a book gives you a full context from start to end. But if you like to, if you are a listener and you want to listen podcasts, that's fine. If you are a TV watcher, that's fine. But try to insert some kind of learning there too. If you're watching fight movies, try to see one documentary there and get some more context. If you're watching hours of TikTok, that's fine. Find some TikTok which is about stocks, which is the happening thing, and learn about it. So get that learning mindset and keep that fresh and apply it. And the other thing which I want to say is, we do learn a lot. I mean, you guys already are in high school and probably you have enough of information, but oftentimes we don't apply what we learned into what we see. So try to make that connection. If you see something and you know, and you probably know the science behind it or whatever the concept behind it, try to refresh yourself and say, okay, I now like make the dots, like connect and get the picture, whole picture of what's happening. So information is everywhere. Don't limit on how you gather it. Just be have that mindset of getting that information, whether it is your Google, Kaggle, GitHub, Quora, like Reddit, whatever it is, like keep it going. So yeah, I'll pass it on to others to expand or give new perspective.
Thank you, Srija and Anjana, for sharing. I can go next. So the things that sort of worked for me to where I got to right now, I think number one is being able to be kind to myself. Sometimes you're in this rut of wanting to do things for others, being in the industry, putting in so much of effort. You do really forget to really sympathize and be really acknowledge the kind of effort you put into your work. For instance, you might put in a lot of work into getting an assignment done, doing this project, but you may not get the grade you expect. And it's very okay at that point to remember that the effort, the learning experience was great, and that's a grade in itself, right? No physical marking can really define your learning experience. That comes even in the workplace. Like you can do everything to close a deal, to make a client, happy, make your teams happy, but just for reasons outside your control, it just doesn't work, right? In that moment, you need to realize that there's things that you don't control, and that's okay, and that doesn't really define who you are and what you are, right? So I'd say definitely being kind to yourself helps. Number two, I'd say is your ability to ask for help. So like Srija mentioned, like I'm also from an Indian background, very conservative. We would always think of asking as help as burdening someone else, as something that makes me, kind of smaller. And that's a really limiting sort of mentality to have. And the reason is because we all grow through mentorship, right? I mean, if you think of it, I've changed countries. I'm in a new role in an industry I did not know anything about. If it wasn't for mentors, for people who are willing to sit down with me, explain things to me, tell me that I had an opportunity to even change industries, I don't think I would be where I am, right? So at no point in your life feel like you need to take any battle or journey alone. There's nothing such as ego. I mean, you have it for a day and then it just depletes, right? So make sure to go out there and ask for help, especially for people that are already doing what you are interested in, right? You have so many great people on this call to connect with, but even from your seniors, mentorship is an ongoing process and doesn't have to be someone that's a CEO, right? It can even be your senior. It can be your parent. It can be someone that just knows a little bit more than you. And that's all you need to be on, right? In that journey of continuing to learn from someone else that's a little ahead of you, to not make maybe those mistakes, but more importantly, have a game plan in mind. I think what sort of helped me moving forward is knowing a little bit of what I want to get to. And that little bit piles up to become a lot, right? So I would say those are kind of like the most important things. And have self-respect, value yourself. No organization, no job, no rejection is bigger than who you are. So always go into every opportunity, any sort of classroom, any presentation, thinking that you're the best, because you put in the work, you deserve to be the best, right? Nobody, no decision or no environment should sort of be putting you down and affecting your confidence. So yeah, good luck, guys. I hope that helps.
Yeah, no, this actually reminds me of a quote that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? And that whole mentorship idea is extremely important to me personally, because there have been a lot of mentors in my life who encouraged me to go out of my comfort zone. And then also people who, when I decided I want to try out something new, were there to say, hey, here are some of the ropes. Here are the basic things you need to familiarize yourself with, how you can meet more people, how you can and how you should talk to them so that you can get the most out of it and also help them. So yeah, that would be probably my number one thing. What has helped me is talking to people who are close to, on the way to, or already doing what I maybe one day would want to do. And that's extremely important, and it's not always extremely clear how to meet those kinds of people. I mean, for anybody who's on this call right now, I'd be happy to answer any questions after as well, right? But when you see somebody who is inspiring to you, feel free to reach out. Sometimes people will have, a positive response. Very few people will say no or have a negative response, and that's okay. But for the most part, taking initiative and reaching out has been extremely helpful for me, more than any other individual thing that I've ever done. So that's one thing. And the other thing that I want to mention is that, and I think Alvin, you were saying something that made me kind of that made the story kind of come to my mind. Is it's not even a story really. It's more just an observation of how impressive it is. Personally for me and a lot of my friends, a lot of our parents are immigrants to the United States. And when you put it in context, I personally could not think today about going to a brand new country, assimilating perfectly in that culture, and then beginning or continuing my career there. That is just insane to me right now. And to think that so many of me and my generation's parents have done that, Indian backgrounds or otherwise, in the United States is phenomenally impressive. And then just goes to show you how resilient humans are, right? So that comes together to say that you're not going to, there's nothing bad is going to happen by you reaching out to ask a few questions to somebody. And also you're not going to hurt yourself, trying to learn something more ever, right? You can only really gain from that kind of experience. So like the two big things would obviously be try to learn no matter what experience or whatever you're doing. And then if you find a mentor, or if you find somebody who inspires you, ask some questions and see how they got there, and see if there's anything in there for you. Yeah. Well, one last thing also I'll add is that, and I forgot who brought this up earlier, but someone was mentioning about how there was a time when if you wanted information, you had to go to the library and read books. Anything you want to learn about today is on the internet, literally any and everything. So there's no lack of resources for the vast majority of people, especially on this call today. Since we have an internet connection, we can learn about anything we want to. It's really more internal that gets you to take advantage of those resources.
All right. So the next question we have, next question is a little bit of a segue from the last question, but this is kind of just another student's guide, just like one sentence, two sentence. What is one thing we should always keep in mind? Just what is one piece of practical advice you would give to students who are interested in following a similar pathway?
I think we have said a lot about it already, but then we can only expand on that, saying that, at least from my side, that be curious and start learning. Be like work with others. If you are in starting your career in engineering, then learn about your basics. And there are like tools, like work with your like-minded people to build those things, or even a learning environment you can create together, and inspire, get inspired and inspire the other people. So that would be some of the ways in which you can keep up with the technology. But yeah, most of the things which earlier we said totally goes with already have been telling about the practical side. So I'm going to stop here and let others.
We'll let Rachit go this time. Rachit always takes the end route otherwise. So Rachit, this is over to you.
Right. Happy to. The single, one thing that you any of you kids can do today. I think a lot of you might be, eventually planning on going to college and applying for particular majors. I would suggest you go onto YouTube specifically, and search up a day in the life of videos, right? And this can either be for a particular job or for someone studying a particular major at a particular college, and see, if you have any interest in a particular field, what a kind of general day might look like for someone who is doing that right now, and see if that kind of aligns with what you expected, and that'll help you figure out more what kind of field of study you might want to do one day, or job you might want to do one day, and that'll help you start figuring out what extracurriculars, classes, etc. So hop on YouTube. I know a lot of you use a lot of YouTube already, so squeeze one video in like that.
I can take that, or Alvin, do you want to go ahead?
You can go.
Okay. So in my case, I think what I say is there's this T-shaped approach. I don't know if you've heard about it, but there is a T-shaped approach that you can develop to your, whatever you're doing. So T-shaped approach is breadth and depth. Think of a T. There's breadth and then there's depth. So in terms of breadth, develop a decent understanding of different disciplines. It's really important because it will help you understand what you like also. And eventually, I mean, in my case, it helped me, put things together when I came into product management, just understanding that. And for that, being curious, coming back, I think that has been a constant theme, right? So being curious is what really differentiates you from, a great product manager to a really average or a good product manager. So question everything and be curious about it, and develop a good decent understanding of all kinds of disciplines. And then in terms of your depth, identify what's your core strength, or what is it that you are good at. It's really important to identify your strengths. What is something that what is your USP, or unique selling product is, unique selling price, or unique selling product is what we say. But what's your USP? What's your core strength that differentiates you from the rest of the world? And this is what will help you create your moat wherever you go, whether it's your college, whether it's your school, or whether it's your corporate world. And that, because you're eventually, what you're doing is you're working with different stakeholders. There are people around you that you're going to be working with. What's the unique thing that you bring to the table? And identifying that and really zooming in and focusing on that is super important. So that's that T-shaped approach is something I would recommend for everybody. Alvin, over to you.
Right. No, everyone has great points. I think one thing in terms of practical advice that you can take and do is, if you want to get into a role of operations and project management, is about thinking of your own life as an operational project, right? For instance, at a stage of being in school, like, how much of control do you have over your routine, right? Do you have a routine? I think one of the best quotes or things I'd heard in a speech was, I think if you make your bed, I think it was a captain who was saying, what is one thing I can do successfully today? It was to make his bed, because that starts off his day in the right trend. So your ability to create a good routine and manage and operate your life in the best sense is the best when you might think, it's such a lost thing to do. How do I do 100 things? But it's all about compartmentalizing these things, right? What does your day include? It includes waking up at a certain time, making sure you eat your meals, doing your homework. But more importantly, it also includes things like learning, right? People on the call spoke about, you have the internet. You can learn everything today. But do you need to learn everything? How are you going to learn, right? What tools are you going to use? How are you going to break down the opportunity to learn, let's say, a product or a language across 3 months? So your ability to really have a sense of routine, it can be as simple as, making sure that your closet looks, fine, your bed is made, but it could be as far as creating a study plan that you're ahead of your peers because you're already preparing a week ahead for a class, right? So being able to have that level of depth on your day won't just help you for today, it'll help you forever. It'll help you in any role, because in any work scenario, you're always going to be thrown things, but how are you able to balance your personal life with your professional life really defines how far you can go. Because in the end of the day, you again have to keep yourself and everyone else happy. So I would definitely say, like, if there's one thing you can take away from today is build a really strong routine that focuses on your health, your fitness, your learning, that doesn't just enable you, and enables the people around you as well, to make sure, that you're not drowning in homework, but you're someone that's really enjoying your homework and all of the other things that you take to the table, right? So I hope that helps. Thank you.
Yeah, so you guys have all given advice to like students. So the next question is basically kind of like a spin on that. It's more about like, what's one thing you would tell your past self, whether it was like when you were in high school or college, or even in like an old job. So like one piece of like solid advice that you would give to yourself rather than like our students, I guess.
I can take this. I would actually expand on what Alvin said. I would tell myself, Anjana, relax, have more fun. That's what I would tell myself, my older self or younger self. The reason is, like, I was always impatient to get complete my studies, do the next thing, get the first best job, then get the next promotion, get next, like, move on. Yes, like, I know I could get that. So I wouldn't say it was a wrong thinking, but then not every time what you want, you get it. So if you're too impatient, you might, like, also face some rejections, not disappointments, and then that works on you. So relax, do what you're doing best, and live with the motto which I try to live now. I bet if I lived in my younger days, I would have been much happier. Every day should be better than your previous day. That's all, the simple motto. It need not be, you will, like, eventually reach where you want. You should be more productive in your mind or in your wholesome way, like what Alvin was saying, not just your studies or your one thing, your whole life, your whether you're having fun, whether you are having a social engagement, everything counts, because you are the same person leading all these things. you can't too much compartmentalize. So you need to make sure that you are like, everything is in a wholesome way. You are having fun, you're doing better, you're being more productive, and keep doing that. And eventually you will reach at a point where you will reach what you wanted to reach. Don't be impatient, just live. That would be my simple advice to myself. And hopefully, like, you guys, I know, being young at this age, also want to do like, get your next best college, next best job. But yes, you will do if you just do your current thing, whatever is in your plate, in the best possible way, you will get what you want. I promise that. Thank you.
Very well said, Anjana, there. I think in terms of, just slowing down and taking things, it's super important, because we get, we come into that rat race all the time. From childhood to, our workplace, we're all doing that. So super, super message there. In my case, I think if I had to tell, my younger self when I joined the workplace, and this is for anybody, someone like Rachit, or somebody who goes into the work, somebody who comes into corporate life, right? So what happened to me was I didn't raise my hand enough when I came in. So my message is raise your hand, take every opportunity, and make sure to use those opportunities to learn. And I'll explain why I'm saying that. So my school days, just like yours, really were the best days of my life. I was on the debating team, organized school fests, captain the sports teams, just doing everything, And then when I joined the corporate world, it was really different. Now, people around me were far more experienced, they were intelligent, and they were smarter. So when I went into a room, I would feel small, and I hesitated in speaking up and taking any initiatives, thinking that people around me were always going to be better at it. And the reason is, they are smart, they are older, they are smarter. That's a concept that I came in with, and I saw that as well. They had more experience. So what I did was, I just really tried to get better at my work, and I limited my world to my lab and my work, just zoning in. So I saw volunteering opportunities, I saw conference engagements, and I saw opportunities to interact with customers just go by in front of me. And every time I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to do it next time. Today I'm not ready. So that today never came. But really a strong nudge and encouragement from my then mentor. Really, she wasn't a mentor, but she was just someone who kept seeing me, and she saw some passion and some energy in me. And she nudged me in a certain direction and explained to me that it's super important what you're doing. You take up something, you want to deliver that. But it's not only about what you know, but it's also about who knows what you know. The world should know your talent. So it's not just about what you know, but who knows what you know. And just that small message and that nudge from her, that we spoke about mentorship before, and I can vouch for that, really helped me overcome this barrier of not raising my hand or not stepping up to take things, and just take up various opportunities related to work and the community. It helped build my confidence and really build my organic network, or just the point Richard was alluding to before, going and talking to people and just building, realizing that there's this whole world who's willing to help me, other than me just staying and doing things by my own. And I connected with people outside my team thanks to these opportunities. And I began to learn so much from others. And it was, I started emceeing events, I started volunteering, started attending conferences, and just doing so many more things that it brought about a whole different personality aspect of, to my career dimension. Now, taking up these opportunities helped me develop really two important traits. One was self-awareness, and then there was self-confidence. So in summary, really, that the realization that my passions helped invigorate me and made me a more all-rounded professional was instrumental. And that's something that I want to give you as a message, that when you go into the workspace or wherever you go, where you see senior people and you feel like you feel small or tiny, do not. You can always step up, and you can raise your hand and take up an opportunity to learn and grow. And the world will help you achieve it. Just ask. Over to you, Rachit or Alvin, somebody.
Yeah, no, I can go ahead real quick. Great advice so far for sure. On a similar note, I would say that there's actually a movie that is kind of inspired, that this is kind of inspired by. It's called Yes Man. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but yeah, it in a little bit of a more watered down version than what he does in the movie. Um, like Srija was just talking about, when opportunities come your way, if someone offers to, take you to the intramural basketball team, or if someone, asks you if you want to go for lunch someday, or if there's an opportunity to learn about some new technology, some free course or some mini conference or some event, anything like that, uh, say yes to more opportunities. That's what I would tell myself. You may find out that you find a hobby or maybe something professional that you enjoy a lot more or are interested by a lot more than what you've been doing so far. Um, you may make a new friend that you end up becoming close with over whatever you were doing. And worst case, you just have a good time and you try out something new. That's the worst case. So just saying yes more and trying out more opportunities is what I would tell myself to do.
Thanks, everyone, for sharing. In terms of my past self, I think just building off what the others said, there's definitely a lot of opportunities. But one thing I struggled with in the past is that I had the fear of missing out. I'm the guy who always raises his hand, right? So for me, sometimes what I've learned to realize also is, you don't have to always say yes. You need to be very strategic with your approach, right? Strategic intent really matters when it comes to opportunities because, I could say yes for 100 things, learn 100 things, but I'll also get burnt out in the expense of it. And burnout and mental stress is a realistic thing that could happen to you. So what I would advise, my younger self is, like Anjan already said, take it easy, have fun, do things, but be strategic about them, right? Like your time is money, right? Your time is the biggest asset that you have that you control. Everything else around you will keep changing, but the way you invest your time in different places will reap the rewards how you want it to reap, right? So it's definitely fair to invest in something new, see how it does. But when it falls, or if it's something you do not like, it's also important to know that it's time to close that book and open a new one, right? To be able to keep involving yourselves in things that you don't enjoy, you don't like, just because other people are doing it makes zero sense, right? That herd mentality of just pursuing a field or pursuing an opportunity just because everyone you know is pursuing it is not the right direction for yourself, right? And that's also where the second part would come in for myself is like, don't compare yourself with everyone else. You're unique, you're beautiful, you're amazing, you're talented, and you're very different from every other person that's on this call and in the world, right? Your sources of happiness, learning, and growth cannot be defined the same way that is going to be defined for your friend. If what brings them joy is doing X thing, let them do it and be happy for them. I've seen a lot of people in my time and even myself look at other people winning opportunities, doing well in life, and being like, oh my God, why am I not doing well? Or why am I not getting this? But I think in a way, it's unfair, right? Because maybe that's not what I want, right? Everybody has a different path to what they want, and make sure to make peace with it. At a younger age, it could be difficult because everybody, is likes following. It's the world of it's the world of influencers where everybody follows somebody. So you like building that understanding of replicating what other people are doing. But at the same time, what I would say is like what Srija said: be an advocate for yourself, right? Why don't other people learn and be inspired by the way you are and want to be you? Right? You don't always have to be the one following. So definitely be the voice for yourself in closed doors and wherever you can be, because your identity is very unique. What you can build and create can be much larger than an organization you want to work for. And the stepping stone of that path starts today, right? If you always want to live under a shadow and work for X, you'll be that. But if you want to be an entrepreneur or be someone that's innovative and creative and starts, the X organization that all of us want to work for, that's a path as well, right? So be brave enough to take it.
All right. So, moving into kind of concluding the sentence, the panelist questions, we kind of want to open up to floor for Q&A. But just before that, do you guys have any final tips or words of encouragement for the students?
I can go first. So just like we have been saying this, it's a common theme. I would just expand on that. Be really, really curious about everything around you. Today, it's very easy to get information. So when a question comes in your mind, don't take it for granted. Don't ignore it. Don't brush it off. Just take your phone and Google it. Like you're sitting in your backyard. You see a hummingbird flying backwards. And don't just take it for granted. Yeah, it's a hummingbird. It's just flying backward. Just see why this tiny thing can fly backward, whereas no other bird, it's the only bird, by the way, can fly backward, upside down, and all that. Find out why it is so. And that would give you, like, once you do this, make it as a habit, not just like about one thing or other thing. It should be a habit that you see a thing you don't know, figure out, go little deeper, more deeper. It's up to you based on your time and what is the whether it's the right time to spend or not. This will not only make you wiser, but it will also help you connect things together as and when you apply in a longer, like, as you go in life. And who knows, one day learning the structure of, let's say, hummingbird's wing structure would help you build a better, like, drone or airplane or spacecraft. So that's what, like, I will leave you, like, be very curious, be inspired, get inspired, and inspire the people around you. That's all I would like, to leave you guys with. Over to others.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. Final words of kind of encouragement. It aligns with, I think Anjana mentioned this in the previous question, but I actually am an alumnus of Irvington High School and Horner Middle School, which is where I think most of these kids are from. And to all of you, I kind of have an understanding of what the environment is like at Irvington a lot of the times. Very fast paced, very competitive, and a lot of kids doing a lot of cool things. And as a result, things can get stressful a lot of the time with classes, teachers, grades, etc. And this ties into what Anjana said in the sense that don't worry about the outcome as much as the process, right? Enjoy the learning experience when you're working on homework, enjoy extracurriculars with your friends, and make sure you're not too focused on, what that grade is or what it's going to do for your college admissions and anything like that, because things have a way of working themselves out. Everyone I know who's gone to college has ended up in a college that they like. Everyone I know, and not to say only people I know, because it's not just a bias sample. Everyone, finds a good college that's a good fit for them, finds a good job that's a good fit for them, and ends up leading a happy, peaceful life. So don't worry yourself too much. Don't get too caught up in the details of the day-to-day work that you're doing. All of you are very smart, will definitely be very, very accomplished in the coming 2 years, and you have great futures ahead of you. So make sure that you enjoy that process on the way there too. That is really the main thing that I feel like you guys should take away, especially being kids at Irvington and Horner. Yeah, that's about it.
All right, go next. I think we already covered so much. I'm trying to think of what else, but one thing else that I could say is, like I said before, is be strategic with your time, but not just for your dream, like Rajat said, your school, or don't just be strategic for your dream job. Be strategic for yourself, right? If you can learn a new language, if you can learn an instrument, like that's a great achievement as well, right? Make sure to spread out your interests. A job is not the end goal always, right? It could also be being an artist, being a musician. It could be starting your company. It could be changing your careers. But if you're always going to have a closed door mindset that my door only opens to being X, you won't learn more about yourself. You won't know more of your interest, right? So I'd say, like, find things you enjoy to do, learn new things. And when you don't enjoy something, be honest with yourself and close that door, right? I think a lot of times people are pressured into one open door and continue to walk towards it. They hate it. They don't want to do it, but they're so pressured into chasing it. They don't close that door, right? But I'd say follow what you love and learn as much as you can, because this is the time when you're still okay to fail and try something new. So make those mistakes, and the more you make mistakes, the more you learn, right? So don't be afraid to fail, right? So good luck, everyone.
Yeah, I think quite different approaches, that everyone's sharing, which means, you get a very holistic view, as Alvin was alluded to. The world is your oyster. You really have everything in your hands at this point. I'll take off from what I was just speaking for the question before, where it is the mistake that I made, and I really don't want any of you to make that mistake. So every now and then it may happen that, when you spread out your wings and you kind of go into a new setting or a new sky, you may land into a room full of people who may be more senior in a course, or they might sound more intelligent, smarter, and experienced in any kind of setting. whether you're going to learn something new or whether you're going into an office room or anywhere. Be the same person, be the same bold, fearless person that you are. You have unique abilities, and you may not have the tallest seat in the room. But whenever this doubt comes in your mind, and you feel that, hey, I should go into a shell or I go smaller, remind yourself, there's one message that I say: you can lead from any chair. You can lead from any chair. If it's a 5,000 people room or it's a 10,000 people room, you can lead from any chair. So remember that and talk to people in that way. Somebody was saying it's all about self-confidence. It's about, just being yourself, and being aware, and being self-confident and self-aware will make you a better person in that sense. So remember this message of leading from any chair. Step up, reach out to people to learn. That was one theme that came across, where people want to help you, they want to mentor, and they want to help you grow. Do not feel that doesn't happen. That is the case. Those are some things that we may not have learned, but we're passing it along. And never fail to raise that hand to ask questions, and grab every opportunity that you believe will help you move forward. So good luck with your careers, and very, very optimistic about what all of you are going to achieve and go transform the world in the future.
Yeah, thank you all of you for coming, and you guys all spoke about really insightful things, and we're just on time. So just before we end this, we'd like to open up the floor for any other questions from the audience. You guys can just unmute yourself and say it, or use the Slido, or text us on the Zoom chat. All right, the first question, the person wants to be a doctor, and do you guys know any first steps for that, or good colleges? I know that might not be in your field.
Yeah, no, I can talk about this. I have a few friends who are currently, studying to become doctors as well. And, going back to high school, some things that were helpful to them were doing some cold emailing to professors who are doing research at local universities. Some of the students were able to go to those universities and see some of the work they're doing in laboratories. So, scientific research, that kind of stuff. And it's not necessarily medically related. So that's one option. Another great one that might even be more accessible is volunteering at local hospitals. This is something I know a lot of people in college as well do. And you can go there, you can help people who are there for a long time by giving them flowers. You can help visitors check in. You can do all sorts of cool stuff without being an actual doctor just yet, and be very helpful still to the hospital's operations. So, that's another option. And all of these things demonstrate that you're trying to learn more about the medical field and see more about what it really is that doctors do, and what it's really like being a part of the medical community, right? So those displays of initiative will also help you in, getting into a good college. And once you get into college, of course, you'll spend a lot of time studying fields like biology, chemistry, neuroscience, etc. There are, at Irvington, I know there are a lot of AP courses offered in terms of, those fields, AP physics, chemistry, etc. Take some of those courses. Definitely challenge yourself there and see whether you enjoy it. Because you're going to be studying a lot of that, especially biology, of course, a lot of that on the way to becoming a doctor. So,
and I'd like to add to that, as in reach out to Rachit after to get connected to his friends. Talk to the people, because that's what we were telling you, right? Throughout, we have alluded to that reach out to him, get connected to the people who can help you directly, and talk to them, question them, and pick their brains as to what helped them get where they are, right? And anybody else, who might know somebody who's gone through that journey, can share their journeys with you. They will tell you the mistakes they made. Don't make those mistakes. Go make new mistakes and pass on your mistakes to the next generation. That's how we evolve as a cycle, and that's how we build the pipeline. So Rachid, emails are coming to you.
Yeah.
Yep. So networking is really important. Always reach out to people, because they'll always be eager and willing to help. So another question I got was, what motivated you guys to take the career that you got into?
So I answered this one in my, in one of the answers. So I think I'll let the others speak through that.
I think we all just touched upon that. For me, when I was growing up and I was in college, the technology which was around, which was emerging, evolving, and the new things which were coming up really was exciting. And that was the one which motivated me to like, do something and build those things, also be part of that journey. And that's why I got into technology field. And I would say, like, in my younger self, I felt like this was very empowering also. I was not very outgoing, I was a little shy, and I felt like I want to still make a big impact in the world. And I felt that I want to do something core which gets into the hands of everybody. And maybe it's easier if you are a politician, or you are, like, a big, like, journalist. But so I was not, like, into that kind of mindset. I was a builder, puzzle solver, as I said. So this was my natural, like, like, I got a I saw a path to get what I want through being in this, taking this software building technology path. That's what has inspired me into it.
I had to add to that as well. Thank you, Anjana, for sharing. Um, in terms of my role, I think what's always challenged me to take up roles and change roles is, uh, to make sure that I am sort of getting enough from the role as much as they're giving me from the role, to be able to evaluate that, is this role helping me to get the opportunity to learn enough to sort of utilize my skills to the best capabilities and learn new skills. And whenever I felt there's a mismatch, or I felt like I can learn more or do more, I'll definitely look for a pivot or a change. And I think just that ability to understand myself and what I bring to the table, and what I have in terms of expectations, that's a good thing to have, even in terms of a college application you fill and things you want to achieve. Like, don't just look at what they offer you, but look at what you offer them, and make sure that it's a fair match, because you want to get as much from them that they give to you as well.
All right. So I actually had a question of my own that I wanted to ask. So I know you guys all talked about connecting with others, reaching out. Um, just communication is key altogether, right? What tips would you give to students like me on like how to reach out? Like what do people prefer? What kind of emails to write? How to like get out there and like, try like building your network?
I could take this first, because part of what I do with consulting is career services and connecting with people. So I think the first portion of connecting is, don't think of it as a transactional process, right? Connecting is not always about, I will learn about your job, or you will refer me to an organization. It's also a lot of times connecting with a human being, right? Behind a person that's gone to an X school, a person that's in a dream company that you like, is a human being. Is a person that has similar interests like you do, is a person that went to similar clubs that you did. So make sure to be able to build a more interpersonal relationship where you understand where a person comes from, their interest. And the way you can do that is go through, if you're on LinkedIn, you can go through their profile, maybe they have a website, and take the effort to investigate, right? Sometimes you're so used to the cookie cutter method of, the fast ordering on the app, that you want to build a relationship in a day. No, but it takes time, right? You got to invest in people, learn who they are, make the connection, and also offer value in return, right? If someone like Rachid's going to introduce you to people to learn about schools, apart from just learning about their experience of applying to school, see what you can do for them. Maybe they are a part of an organization that you can volunteer at. Maybe they have initiatives that they're running. So always adding value encourages people to add value back into you. And there are many ways to connect to people, but obviously having like a value to value mindset helps people realize, that you're not just to take from them, but you're also there to give. And that definitely helps you stand out.
Yeah, I will do a plus one on what Alvin said, that don't connect, like, just making those connection is not, don't measure it by just seeing the number of, like, people you are connected in LinkedIn or Facebook. That is not the connection. That is probably, it will work, but the connection is, be authentic with your connection. Try to, like, connect with people where you are going to get something and you really need that, and also try to give back something. It might be information, it might be just like, be helpful upfront, yourself, and build those connections, and not make it transactional. As Alvin said, that probably will give you a short term help, but a real good connection will take you a long way.
So I can add to this. I can say what has worked for me. For me, this whole networking word was very had a negative connotation to it when I started off in my career, and it was all around me. everybody was saying, oh, go network. And every time I heard that word, I'm like, oh my gosh, it means it had this word of, using people in some way. And that's where the whole transactional aspect of it comes in. How I went around it, how I went around overcoming that barrier is this, when I was talking through my journey of when my mentor nudged me and I got into activities. So when you go into new domains and you explore new things, whether it's, joining a club, whether it's going to an event where you're organizing, or whether it's, just stepping out of what you do regularly, you'll go meet new people. In those interactions, you will meet people who are beyond what you do regularly. And those kind of connections where you're not exchanging a business card, or you're just not dropping a note on LinkedIn where you don't have a face, really it's like an e connection, right? But really a more personalized connection, because your interests met in some way, and then you took a genuine interest in that person. So I call these inside out connections, is what I call them, and I'm very comfortable with that. That's how just investing in people personally has helped me. And I really now, over the period of time, over my career, now I have genuine people who have worked with different events, different organizations or different causes. I don't need to stay connected with them all the time, but we connected at some level. We formed a relationship, and then when I need something, I can just loop back. And that's how I that network building has been immensely important to me. So that's one. And number two, if you are really reaching out to people on LinkedIn for help, one of the things, because I do get a lot of questions, I do get, I see people reaching out. One mistake that I see people making is not being genuine. As Alvin was saying, everybody, there's this shortcut method, because we are all app based now, as he was rightly alluding to. We take shortcut methods where we want to connect with that person, but it seems so artificial, because you write this long email and just long-winded email where you're trying to just establish something, but you're not getting to the point. So if you need something from that person and you need help, be specific. 4 lines are enough, saying, hey, Shrija, can you, this is what I need help with. So if it's a person like me who really wants to help people, I will connect you with someone, or I will help you in some direction. But if you write a long-winded email, which is taking me time to really, figure out, or, we are having 3-4 exchanges, you've lost my time, right? And time is of essence. So when you are emailing, be specific. This is what I want. This is what I like. And this is where I want to use, how I could, it's a value exchange, as they were rightly alluding to. It's like products. It's like a business in some ways, if you're connecting in that sense. What value are you bringing to the table, and what value is the other person able to help you? If you're not able to bring something also, it's fine. In a lot of cases, people who are reaching out, it's just about the other person wanting to help, but make it easy for that person. If there are like 10 people who do that, otherwise, imagine how hard it becomes for that person. So those were 2 tips, where I believe you could use both sides of the story.
All right, so final question here. This is actually something that a student messaged me like right now. How do you manage extracurriculars with schoolwork while being able to leave some time for yourself? So how do you lead that balanced lifestyle?
Yeah, as you might have seen, there's like a triangle meme where it's like either you can have sleep, friends, or like a good academic life, right? Yeah, I mean, I can talk about this for a second. It's definitely difficult. There's a lot of pressures from every side. And finding that ideal balance is not easy. And nor is it something that one day you'll find and then settle into perfectly, in my opinion, right? So it's an ongoing process of, as you guys know right now, a lot of you have final seasons coming up, right? Final seasons and APs coming up, right? And even if we simplify this model in our head and consider just those 3 things, right? Your social life, your health, let's say, and then your academic/professional life, there are going to be ebbs and flows in each of those. So when you try to strike that balance, be flexible with yourself, be kind to yourself, make sure that you're getting, and health is definitely the number 1 priority, because without that, nothing else, you can't do anything else, right? If you've ever been really sick, you know that everything else, stops right then. But while prioritizing your health, I'd say over everything else, allow everything else to be a little bit flexible. If you find that you have more time some weeks, go ahead and hang out with your friends more, right? If you find that you have less time, be okay with telling yourself that, hey, look, okay, this happens to be a point in time where I have more work. And so I can't hang out with people for too much time, and that's okay, because soon enough I'll be done with this kind of stage, and I will be able to again. So again, I'm just saying, like, be flexible with yourself. It's not easy. It's not easy. There's no way around that. But you want to make sure that you strike a balance where you aren't burning yourself out, you're maintaining your health, and still getting to do everything that you want to do.
I'd like to add to that, as well, as someone who always raises hand for extracurriculars. I think one way to sort of be able to build a balance is to realize that, well, again, the way you would build it is very, very unique to you, right? Your social situation, your health needs, the time that you have, the things that you take up is very unique. So you always want to try and have a roadmap of some sort, right? What are your health goals? I mean, this may sound really broad, but it doesn't need to be. In terms of health, what does it mean? Maybe eating good meals, going for a walk, define that, right? The more clear you make what you want to do, the more likely it is that you'll do it. That's what I've learned. So, I mean, again, technology is a great way to do that. You know, you can have apps, like I have this thing called Habit Tracker. I can write in my app, I want to walk 10,000 steps every day, right? And I try to track the fact if I do or not. And nowadays you have like fitness watches, you have many ways that you can track it, right? So set a very realistic goal on all three fronts. If health is important to you, set one simple goal that I'll walk 2,000 steps a day, right? That's big as well. If like eating meals is important to you, I'll try eating 1x meal every day. If extracurriculars is important to you, again, you want to manage, you don't need to achieve everything. Maybe I'll try one thing this month to see how it works. And by setting those very specific, quantifiable goals, and by seeing every month if you're able to do them or not, you're actually being fair to yourself, because when you first do them, you don't know if you can or can't, right? So you're very excited, you want to do everything. But as you do them, how much of time do you spend evaluating what you're doing, right? This might again seem like, oh my God, Alvin, evaluation, that's a lot. But trust me, it's all about knowing what you're doing and knowing, do you want to continue to do them or not, and taking a decision and being and saying no, right? Somewhere you can either make everyone else happy or you can make yourself happy, right? And it's about finding that balance of sometimes taking it up for yourself and choosing yourself and being happy yourself. So I hope that helps.
I'll probably take one point off that and tell you about a book. There's a book that I love, which is Atomic Habits. I don't know if any of you have heard about it. Do read it if you get the time. A beautiful book. There's a line that is there in the book. It talks about, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your processes, or you fall to the level of your habits, really. And that's why setting habits or setting processes in your life, right from your high school or even middle school in some way, and that is about the planning aspect that Alvin was bringing up. How do you plan things, and how do you go about organizing things or compartmentalizing it is super important. And this, if you cultivate this habit now, those habits remain with you for life. So setting goals is important, and then getting into that process or that habit becomes equally important. And then once you can then start prioritizing and setting what you want to do. So combine all this and then figure out how it works for you. So that'll be something I'd like to add.
All right. Unfortunately, we are a little bit out of time for answering any more questions. So if you guys have any remaining questions, please reach out to our panelists. I'm sure they'll all be welcome to answer your questions for you. You can also reach out to me and Hema as well. We're here, especially if you're like in middle school, just like quick guide for freshman year. You can all reach out for that. And other than that, all are free to leave. Thank you so much for coming, panelists. Would you mind staying a couple minutes after everybody leaves?
And everyone, please thank the panelists on your way out. And follow them on their social media too if you want to reach out.
All right, I think that was the last. Thank you so much for coming, especially at such a short notice. The stuff that you talked about was really helpful, like even for me. And I'm really glad that I was hosting this event and not like one of my other officer members.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. What all of you guys said was really, really helpful for even me. Like, I think we did have like a lower turnout, but I think everybody that was here really appreciated it. Like some people were messaging me